Hello all and welcome to your, well, it's going to be early morning in about 30 seconds, so your early morning beer review at exactly almost 12 a.m. And I am going to dub this review the why the hell am I not massively obese review? Why? Because today I went to McDonald's and I had that lobster roll meal, and it's, as usual, supersized, but the lobster roll, while good, was kind of tiny. So I got hungry on the way home, and I stopped by Taco Bell, and I had the chalupa box, the double chalupa box, which was, nicely filling. Came with like a slushy kind of thing too. And considering I am topping this off with a beer review, to be followed by, maybe one or two other beers, it is truly a miracle that I am not massively obese, because I actually ate other things during the day. I had like some bread and yogurt for breakfast in the morning, and I also had, let's see here, some cookies and crackers and peanut butter as a snack at work, and black coffee as usual. So yeah, why I am not massively obese, you tell me. It is a mystery. So, what are we reviewing tonight? Well, again, still working through our way through the 12 Beers of Beer Camp, 2007, on the 12th Beer of Beer Camp. So, what are we reviewing tonight? One of the few of the, more sessionable beers, I suppose, of the 2017 Beer Camp across the world. This one is as you can probably tell, a Dunkleweiss, which is, or a Dunkelweissen, which is basically a Hefeweizen, a wheat beer in which the malts have been lightly killed to, bring about a darker malts. So it's still wheat, but using, darker malts. Excuse me. So this one is a collaboration with Ayinger, which I've reviewed a few beers of, and they're a really good brewery out of Frankfurt in Germany. So let's read the label, shall we? Bavaria's Ayinger are legends in the brewing industry, known for their love and perfection of classic German beer styles. Playing off their background, we came together to create this dark twist on the Bavarian-style wheat beer. This beer features layers of wheat malt flavors and was handled through traditional open fermenters to highlight Ayinger's famous Hefeweizen yeast character. This is 5.7 ABV, so it's kind of on the heavy side for a Weissen beer, which tend to be fairly light. And I'm looking forward to this. Broke out my wheat beer glass, which I don't use all too often. Why don't I use it all too often? Well, you can look at the shape of it, and you can see the size of my hand here. Cleaning this thing is a pitch and a half, and in fact, the bottom is still a little bit grubby, even though I need to get myself a bottle brush, really. Because, as usual, I don't clean with soap and water. I just use hot water in cleaning my bottles, my glassware. So, I don't think it's going to affect the taste too much. I think this is just hard water stains at the bottom here. It'll probably affect the carbonation and not make it last as long. But, I wanted to have sort of the traditional glass style for this, so that's that. And I just dropped the bottle cap. Ooh. Gave it a fairly vigorous pour, as you're supposed to do with wheat beers. It looks like I got some of the wheat on the bottom. Some of the yeast on the bottom, but looks like it's fairly sticky, unfortunately. Oh well. It's cloudy, so I got enough to get the yeast flavor in there. A cloudy reddish brown, reddish brown. Very carbonated. I don't know if you can see it too well, but nicely carbonated. With a sort of off-white to beige head, nice and thick. And that smell. First thing that hits me. so redolent of my grandmother's banana bread. Toasty, nutty malts with that yeast smell that is slightly phenolic and evocative of banana. Hints of bubblegum, hints of cloves. But you know what, that dark malting and that banana aspect really, really, you know, sort of that Proustian sort of effect here where, because, you know, I really associate smell of fresh cooked banana bread with my grandmother. That's what immediately brings to mind there. All in all, bright, lively colors in that smell. Beautiful beer. I don't know if you can see it. It's almost like I'm glad I went and brought this glass out. I'm gonna see. Well, you can't see it. You have to kind of see it from the light this way, but it just creates like this corona of light going up and into thin, and then a cloud, and another corona of darkness. Those wheat yeast tastes, you know, that very, and Ayinger definitely has the most phenolic of Hefeweizen kind of yeasty taste to it that I've ever had. It's from start to finish, strongest in the mids. On the palate, a nice, lightly sweet, somewhat chewy, but not very chewy kind of breadiness. Heavier on the palate than it would be, you know, physically heavier on the palate than it would be for a regular Hefeweizen, but still nowhere near what you would think chewy would be for something kind of dark malted. Dark malts have this sort of effect where it's not as bright. The tastes are not as bright. It doesn't boom out like sharp cloves, sharp bananas. It's subdued. The darkness of the malts, the brightness of the malts kind of round off those edges and subsume it. The finish. Big burst of phenolic bubblegum. Then a sort of slight bitterness, slight nuttiness from the hops, and remnants of the yeast, kind of creating almost like an aftertaste of you've eaten, you know, that kind of nutty banana bread. I have to say, I'm mentioning banana bread. There's a lot of beers out there that kind of like try to push for that. This is not pushing for that. It just kind of comes about very naturally. Kind of the most, interestingly, hop bitterness kind of shows up a little bit more in the front. Still not much. Still very much a yeast show and a malt show, kind of melded together, interplaying with each other, creating this very wonderful beer. I haven't had much of this style. I think I've reviewed one and had maybe about one other in all my time of sort of, you know, drinking beer as a dilettante. But I have to say I really want to explore this style a bit more. Not really changing overly much as it warms. kind of wish I had better glassware. You know, I have a feeling that it would leave, you know, if I could clean my glass, this particular glass properly, it'd be leaving a nice set of webbing all the way down. Lacing, web-like lacing. Yes, I could say that I could easily put away about 2 or 3 of these, no problem. Not really refreshing per se, not really crushable, but just deliciously drinkable. As you'd pretty much expect from Ayinger, which is, you know, one of the German breweries for, you know, classic breweries from classic German styles, as it says in the label description. So folks, I have to say that this is one, you know, I haven't tried any of these before. Like I said, I only got one shot, one go-around with each of these. I have to say that this is pretty much my favorite, more for sentimental reasons rather than being blown away. It just kind of hits a very nice spot in which I really like the flavors, and, you know, the flavors are evocative to me, which is kind of what you want. You want foods, drinks that are evocative to you, places, people, and things from your past and experience. And you know, the irony is my grandmother was not much of a drinker at all, but, you know, my grandfather was stationed in Bavaria during the war, so my grandmother kind of came over, and she developed a love of, you know, German beers. And it was pretty much the only alcoholic beverage that she would drink is German beer. She hated American beers, you know, but she would always, when given the chance, have like a German beer whenever it came around, which was pretty rare because, you know, for most of her life it was very difficult to find German beers in America. So I have to imagine, you know, that this is something that, like, she would have drank and enjoyed. Well, folks, that's your beer review for tonight. This is a Dunkleweiss from Ayinger and Sierra Nevada. Go out and get yourself the beer camp. I'm going to say it's a YouTube video. Get yourself the beer camp box set. It's just a wonderful way to explore the world of beer. Prost.